For so many of us, there is a sense of there is no going back right now. It feels like we have uncovered so much truth within our lives, working through some of the things that perhaps have been very, very challenging. We've dug through them and found our way to this sense of deep inner truth, or truth on new levels, a place at which we've been initiated and invited to make some different decisions, to take some different steps. And on the other side of that, there could be a sense of the great unknown, of not knowing exactly where life is taking us or what we're doing, especially if we're being called in some very new directions. But it comes at a time where we have these two very powerful full moons in June and July, and the first of which being on the 21st of June, which is also the solstice. And in the UK, that is the summer solstice. So we have the longest day and this incredible influx of light. So what does light do? Well, it illuminates all of the deep, dark crevices. It brings light, the light of awareness, the light of awakening, and just a literal light to illuminate things that perhaps have previously been unseen. Maybe there are things that have been hidden. And I would really strongly take note of the truth that is being shown to you, the new realizations or revelations, or indeed just the information, the ideas, the inspiration, the things that are being catalyzed within you right now. Because within that, there are keys to unlock new doors, to open new doors, to access new pathways, to consider new possibilities and new potential. And this doesn't take away from the fact that we could be making potentially difficult decisions. And actually, it feels like having to release, surrender, or potentially walk away from some of the things that maybe we previously enjoyed. I think there's also a very organic way at which this might be happening in our lives right now that might not be so intentionally led. It might not be such a conscious choice to decide to come away from certain things, certain situations. Actually, it feels like we've become more finely tuned within our own personal lives. So this will be what the specifics of this are, will be different for every single individual. But there is this sensation of maybe you're no longer interested or in alignment or feeling the call to do certain things. This could be everything from a career to a way of life to particular interests to groups of people to societies, whatever it might be for you. There can be this really either subtle or very pronounced shift as we're moving away from things that perhaps had at one point felt perfect. And they were. But as we grow and as we change, it's natural that we come out of alignment with things that no longer perhaps can be a functional part of our life or an intentional part of our life. And what we're doing is moving and gravitating quite naturally more towards things that perhaps hold another key or another part of ourselves to discover. They're guiding us to deeper understanding, self-exploration. And maybe that means meeting people that will help you on your next steps in your personal or professional lives or spiritual awareness, whatever it is. But it comes at a time when we have to be really honest and really real with ourselves about what we're doing. Because we're at this initiation point with these two full moons. The second is in July, the 21st of July. So we have these two full moons, both in Capricorn. There is a sense here of being pulled back to our very foundations, the foundations of our beliefs, the foundations of our daily habits, the foundations of our core understanding of who we are, maybe our sense of purpose, maybe the things that we use as our fuel, literally in what we're consuming at a physical level, how we nourish our bodies, and also how we nourish our minds. Everything that we're taking in now is going to either act like a fuel that is going to propel us in a really positive way as we move forwards, or it could potentially become a hindrance. And I think at a very physical level, our bodies will tell us certain things just might become intolerable, a literal intolerance, whilst other things might suddenly become just less appealing. And all of that is when we can slow down, when we can give ourselves the opportunities to really have those conversations with ourselves, time to journal, time to reflect, time to discuss with wise counsel or confidants, people that we trust, people that we know have experience, or just really good friends. We find that we find that space to have the conversations that we need to have and figure things out for ourselves, but also that sense of truth within what we're saying. There is also a theme leading up around these two full moons and the time at which transpires between them. So through these summer months, potentially if you're in the northern hemisphere, and through the winter months if you're in the southern hemisphere, there is a time right now where perhaps there have been things that we've built a foundation upon haven't been our truth. And this might not be, I don't want to issue any blame or judgment here, but there can just be things that perhaps we're realizing now aren't our truth. Perhaps there are literal deceptions or illusions, things where, I know this analogy is used quite a lot, but it's like when the curtain falls in The Wizard of Oz, and the all-powerful Oz is actually just a little man hidden behind a curtain. It's that kind of unveiling, of stripping back, and actually, within ourselves, stripping back away from any of those ego traps where we have perhaps given ourselves, attributed a great deal of meaning to those sources outside of us, and use those to perpetuate this any kind of image. And again, that means that when we feel that kind of energy, as we go deeper into ourselves and maybe drop some of these conditions for what we perceive as success or what we perceive as happiness, we can be more authentic with ourselves. Now, another theme that is coming through, and another message that's been coming through in my preparations for making this video, one of them has very much been about being able to find happiness and to be able to find joy without that conditionality in the present moment. When people say, well, I've got to find my joy, I've got to find my happiness, I want to live a happy life. Well, happy isn't an end destination. I think we're all sold that the happy ever after, that you reach a point where nothing goes wrong after that. Or once you're happy, everything just works out. And the reality is, none of us know what the future holds. We don't have a choice over whether or not chaos enters our lives. We just have to be in the present moment with whatever we're contending with, whatever we're facing, make the best decisions. And equally, when we're not in maybe that challenging moment or that challenging experience, or even perfectly parallel to it, things can be going wrong, but also we can have a very joyful, happy moment and happy experience. The two can't exist without the other. It is the duality of our emotional experiences that creates the existence of the other. We only know them because of their polar opposites, the depth of which will take us on very deep journeys within ourselves. But when we've felt the extreme lows that life can inflict, we appreciate those depths, those extreme highs, the happiness, the joy, the bliss we can experience in life as well. And so there is a theme here of recognizing that it's okay to be happy, to experience joy, even if life isn't perfect, even if everything isn't figured out. There are people out there that can assist us, that can support us, that can offer guidance. And I find that sometimes when we breathe and allow ourselves to be open to receiving, you find that that the universe, that the cosmos works in very unexpected ways. And sometimes you will get a message out of nowhere through the mouth of somebody that you've never spoken to before. And it's that moment, that shift in perspective, that just instantly makes something click, or it gives you something to think over, some food for thought that then over, sometimes it's the words of strangers that can be some of our greatest teachings. It's the right thing at the right moment. So sometimes we can't premeditate everything. We can't expect to have every single answer in the present moment. And sometimes we aren't happy with everything in our lives in the present moment, but we shouldn't allow that to stop us from being or experiencing any kind of happiness. And again, this comes back to us finding our inner truth and being okay with not having every single answer or every single part of the puzzle in place right now before we go and decide we're going to pursue the things that we love, that we're going to make some of these decisions that empower us, decisions that open doors, decisions that allow us to leave things behind that have been harming us, or that we've just feel like we've outgrown. It brings with it a kind of freedom that doesn't need to control, that brings us into a state of flow, that actually allows us to work more freely with these changing energies. And it's not to say that we don't take action, because there is a balance to be had here, and we need to be able to take those actions, but it's actions that are in alignment with what feels right to us, with the direction that we're going, being able to tune in and to feel in, to really feel in to some of those decisions, if they're based in fear, or if it's fear that feels like it's pushing us, nudging us down a particular road. That's the point at which I feel we're being called to slow down, to take a breath, to go and ground, to seek out the wise counsel of somebody that you truly trust before you make those decisions about how best to move forwards. And I'm just being really reminded this week that even through some of those really challenging experiences, if you find them difficult situations, if you encounter them, there are moments for joy, for happiness, for recognizing the beauty and the love that can come from other people, the kindness of a stranger or somebody who's willing to help in a very selfless way, and to be reminded that there is kindness and beauty even in those difficult experiences, and that not everything in life is always going to go the way that we expect or we want it, but actually there is always a way through, and there are people there to assist us, to support us, and to guide us. The final thing that's really been coming through for me this week, and I have got pages here of things that I've written, is a reconnection with past joys and past experiences, and reconnecting with things, the inner child sense of wonder, and things that we love to do, things that we love to experience, and allowing ourselves to bring a little bit of that playful, joyful magic back into our lives, allowing it to be part of our present. And equally, I know when we go through big life changes, or we make big decisions, or we have these big realizations, maybe there is a literal, an illumination of something that has been long hidden within you, in either a positive sense, or maybe it's a big blockage that you finally get to see a pattern, something that you are now able, through seeing it, now are able to overcome. When we go through that, there is this sense of almost, I think there can be a nostalgic sense of remembering, as we regain a part of ourselves, energetically or otherwise. And in that moment, in that space of freedom, it's like, well, I can go back now. I can be that person that I was. And actually, we can't step back to the past memory of who we were. I know this is a bit of a difficult concept, but that version of us doesn't exist. It exists within our memory. Our memory of it is what we have an emotional connection to. And what we do is we take the wonderful aspects of that we want to bring forwards, and we embody them with the present version of self. There is no going back in time. There's no time machines. And even if there were, you yourself have traveled so far on your inner journey that you couldn't be that person because of all of the knowledge and wisdom that you've gained. So the trick here, if there needs to be a trick, it's kind of like an emotional, I don't want to say shortcut, but is to give yourself the freedom to think, oh, wow, I remember how it felt when I was that free, or when I loved doing that thing. For me, it's been playing music again, playing my guitar. It's bringing that back into the present. And I won't go back to being my 18-year-old self that was a musician, but I can bring all of that nostalgia and allow her to be a part of my present self, allow that to be part of my present experience, and build upon it. It's embodying that sense of self, regaining it, reclaiming it, and making it part of the present. So I think that's about what I have for the channeled section of this. I will do some runes as well. So let's get some runes for the week ahead. There was definitely two. And we have daggers and avars. Now these definitely wanted to come out together. Balance and transitions, endings and new beginnings, all in the same breath. I think this is a reminder that no door closes without another opening, and it might not always be perfectly obvious or apparent that that is what's happening. Sometimes we really do have to trust that we can't just stay doing things the same way, or being in an old energy or an old pattern or an old habit just for habit's sake. If we are aware of something that is destructive or no longer beneficial to us, and I say these, I'm trying to think of very broad terms. You will know what this is for you. We can get stuck in patterns, but as the sun sets, the sun will rise. There is always scope for new beginnings. And actually, I'm really guessing that for some of you, there could be a period, it could be an indication of travel, of movement, because we have Ivars here. And Ivars is the axis of all. It is the great spine of Yggdrasil, of which all the 9 realms are held. In a literal sense, a metaphorical sense, for whatever that means for us. It feels like you're starting on a new adventure, on a new phase in life, on a new phase in your journey. Certainly, the doorways are open for that. There is that potential energy. And this is an initiation point. It's an opening point, a catalyst point. You don't have to have all of those steps figured out. But I feel like there are new doorways going to be opening over the next month or so, between these moons, and within that time period, take note of what is changing within you. This might be a really powerful time to begin a daily journaling practice, something that gives you a sense of personal reflection, the opportunity to connect, to tune in, to slow down. Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's like I said, for me it's a journaling practice. That's been my mainstay for a very, very long time. It gives you that point to just let out or flow whatever wants to come through, and you'd be amazed at what you can figure out and discern from yourself when you just allow for that energy to flow through you. But definitely there are changes and initiations happening now. What do we have? Ooh, so we've got Turisas in this position, and I'm literally being guided that if you're stood at the bottom of the mountain, and you're looking up, the mountain is going to potentially feel overwhelming. I think if we looked at the rest of our lives and think of everything that we needed to do, everything that we wanted, and compare that to where we are now, there would be a sense of absolute overwhelm at how far we had to go, what step would we have to take. We can't be thinking of the steps that we need to take right at the very top when we're just starting out at the bottom. And this is not to say that you're at the bottom of your mountain. Every single different thing we might be working on in life could be its own mountain. And they will have a different level of gravity for us as individuals, no matter what it is. Maybe it's relationships, maybe it's work, maybe it's your inner work or mental health, whatever it is. All of these different facets of life have their own journey, their own process, their own things that we have to work through and overcome. And if you look at the everything and expect yourself to have it all done right there and then, it can be overwhelming. So I'm literally getting from this, take a step back, look at how far you've already come, look at the things that you've already overcome on your journey. If you'd have had to have faced that all in one go at the very beginning, you'd have had a very different experience. It happens as it happens. We cope with whatever we find ourselves needing to cope with, or needing to work through, or work on, or taking the steps that we need to take in the present moment. We can only make decisions in the present moment based on the information that we have, and give ourselves the best shot of taking that next step. But sometimes, and this won't be for everybody, but sometimes if we look at the entirety, if we look at the very end goal and allow ourselves to get completely distracted from the present moment, it can feel like it's too much. So again, come back to the present, come back to your sense of presence right here, right now, and ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do to take a step forwards right now? What is the one thing, the one task I can focus on, the one action I can take, the one thought I can think? Come back to the foundation of you and build from there, step by step. That's how progress is made. One more. What do we have? Hagalaz. This came out in one of my personal readings, actually. And this is a rune of great change. It's a rune, I think, that can spark. I think some people just see some runes as wholly negative, whilst others are wholly positive. And from experience in working with the runes, there isn't a literal, just like tarot, there isn't a black and white, good, bad for any of them. The rune poems surrounding Hagalaz, some of them speak of hail. Sorry guys, I had a camera malfunction. Hail comes in, the hail destroys the crops, but in turn that hail then melts. It turns from ice into water, and it waters the crops, and from that destruction it grows better. It allows, if you think about this, there is more space for those crops to grow, the ones that remain, that is. So there is potential here for things perhaps to need to be let go of in your life. Maybe where you are going, not everything can come with you. Maybe there are things that we have outgrown. Maybe there are things that are now harmful for us or not in our greatest good. Maybe there are things that are weighing us down, or that actually feel quite poisonous even in our lives. It can be a time when some of these changes aren't even initiated by us. But we have to see the fullness of what is happening pre, during, and after those changes. Sometimes it's only in the hindsight that we see how it helped us to grow. And I feel like this could be quite a reflective experience. This isn't to say, like I said earlier, this isn't to say that there are going to be challenges or bad things happening. That isn't how I do readings. But it definitely feels like a reflection over the things that have changed in the past and how you have already overcome them. Recognizing those skills and the growth, and knowing that whatever changes come next, that you will navigate your way through them once again, and you will climb that mountain and overcome, because there is another step in your journey or your adventure that is awaiting you. So I'm going to leave this here. Thank you for spending your time with me. I really wish you the happiest full moon and the happiest solstice at the end of the week if you're watching this at the time that it is being filmed. I think it's going to be truly beautiful and transformational all at once, and this is just a reminder to find the magic even in the difficult moments. I know it feels impossible at times, but just keep coming back to yourself, remembering who you are. Do the things that you love, whether that's listening to music that you love, or speaking to people that you love, or anything else that just reminds you of who you are and your beauty and your truth. And don't lose sight of that. So I want to send you all my love. All of my information is in the description box below, and I'll see you again really, really soon. Okay, bye-bye.